Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. So this is the third webinar that we have done with Mitel and Britannic. This time Calabrio have also joined us, so welcome to Calabrio for this webinar on the 3 M's for remote agents. Before we jump into the presentation, I'd just like to run through some logistics. You are all on mute. So we do encourage questions, however, so please do so by typing into the questions box that you can see on the left-hand side there, and we will read those out at the end of today's session. We do encourage, of course, participation, so please do so. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I will now hand over to Jonathan Sharp from Britannic. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. So, yes, I'm Jonathan Sharp from Britannic, Sales and Marketing Director. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. As Sue has indicated, we run a number of these webinars together over the last few months, and we think it's important to share the art of the possible and obviously provide updates on not just technology but also why people are deploying the technology and what sort of changes it's actually underpinning within the marketplace. So today's session is called the 3 M's for remote agents. So we're looking at motivation, management, and monitoring. So great to have Calabrio, Mitel, and a colleague from Britannic presenting alongside today. So the agenda, we'll just quickly do a brief introduction into Britannic, and then I'll be handing over to Shamim to look at how to enhance customer and staff communications. Nick will then pick up from Calabrio to look at how you can gain agent buy-in with workforce management. And then we'll hand over to Gillen from Britannic to look at how you can drive outcomes and behavioral change with a holistic view of different data feeds. So lots of different technology in there, but also hopefully some insight, as I said, into these changes that are happening in the marketplace, and how together we can help to support and underpin them. We'll have Q&A at the end, and we plan to finish at 1. If you do have any questions throughout, please pop them into the chat, and we'll pick them up and deal with them in the Q&A session. So we're here to try and share knowledge, and we want you to get the most out of it. So please do challenge us. Please ask questions. And we'll do our best to answer them. So first of all, Britannic, who are we? And we're really a number of different things. We're a value-added reseller, we're a systems integrator and a managed service provider, and we're also a technology innovator in our own right. So not only are we delivering great technology with partners such as Mitel and Calabrio, but we're also augmenting it with our own in-house development capability, off-the-shelf applications, and very much looking at how we integrate and blend these different technologies to provide seamless customer experience, support improvements for user experience, and as I said, importantly, underpin change and development for our customers, for their businesses. We've been operating since 1984, so a huge amount of experience in the marketplace, but also expertise as well in the contact center market, so helping people to embrace communication methods and new ways of working as well. We support a wide range of different businesses across the UK, and indeed have deployed to over 30 countries worldwide. And I'll bring up the obligatory logo slide shortly. We're a quality business, so we think it's important to work with customers through a predictable framework to deliver successful outcomes and ongoing support and development of the technology. Partnership is very much central to our belief and the way in which we work with customers. So we're here for the long run with customers, to work with them, to be that value-added partner, to help support them on their journey that they go through. End-to-end capability, so whether it's unified comms and collaboration, or whether it's contact center and the sort of move and evolution of omni-channel contact, networking, cloud architecture, and indeed application development and integration. We have the ability to provide all aspects to clients. So there's a number of logos up there, so many successful and long-standing partnerships that we have with customers that we work with. I'm sure you'll recognize a few of them, and it's good, having a quick look at the attendee list today to actually see there's good representation from existing customers as well. So our role very much is about helping to add value to our customers. And of course, we're in a world where things have changed, and they've changed considerably with the move to home working. And, we talk about the new normal. And within that, it's about how do we manage the remote contact center? How do we unify services and people together? And there's a lot of role of technology in helping to underpin that. So whether we're looking at AI or digital technologies and automation, it's an area we can help with. Whether we're looking at bringing data together and information and context, again, we're helping to support that for customers. I think cloud is really important, the direction of travel with cloud and how we support that. But how do we engage and motivate staff? And how do we share this data across the company? It's not just data within the contact center, it's pulling data from other sources to provide that 360 view and support customer experience and excellence. So that's a quick opener. What I'd like to do now is to hand over to Shamim from Mitel. I think the official title is CX Guru. I think that's what I've seen, Shamim. So if you could share your experiences around how Mitel are really helping to enhance customer and staff communication.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm quite fond of the Queen title, actually. It's growing on me massively, so I'm going to stick with that for the foreseeable. And I just want to congratulate you for sticking to the time as well. So, okay.
That's very kind of you.
I know. Right then. I have shown, for any of you that's been on any of my webinars since February, March, I have shown this slide a couple of times, but I wanted to include it in my section today because it's still relevant. So the greatest current effect of coronavirus on our contact center industry is still the enormous shift to home-based agents. And I'm still getting, calls. I'm having conversations with our customers that is, underpinning this message. And for once, technology has led business change. In the space of weeks or even days, brands and contact centers have adapted to COVID-19 with the mass implementation of remote working. For those who haven't quite got there yet, it's definitely in play as I speak. But with the unpredictable contact center volumes, customer behaviors, unstable resources, and the need to develop, new services and propositions so that everybody can stay relevant and add value, today's people and process challenges remain unique. So with this shift comes a number of challenges, but there's also some benefits to that as well. And when we look at how we try to segment the challenges and benefits, we've put them into 6 boxes here, but there are absolutely more. We've got to think about, how we can attract and retain great talent. And I think one of the benefits as well of this pandemic is the fact that, where you are geographically living or situated should not affect what company or where you're going to work. Managers do need to do more to keep their team members connected and productive and making sure that they're speaking and humanizing, the elements of our day-to-day working. And I think as workers now, we've all experienced firsthand that work can be flexible. And I think, it's probably a good thing that we've all been able to reduce our commutes for those that can reduce their commutes. And I think as a result, there's more accessibility to do other things that we truly want to do and enjoy. With that, there's security and privacy challenges. They haven't gone away, but I think, we just have to look at it differently. And when we think about security, it always comes down to trust at the end of the day. You can have the people and the processes and the governance and the policies, but you have to trust your people. but trust is a two-way partnership, and it needs to be reciprocal. We're looking at productivity challenges because, there absolutely are. And again, this is a human element of the fact that we're all working at home. We've all got sort of distractions and other things going on around us, whilst we're trying to maintain, the roles we play in supporting the businesses that we work for. And above all else, we have to be professional in how we do it. We need empathy, but with empathy, we also need compassion. And we need to be kind to ourselves as well as being kind to others. And in addition to what's on this slide, we should also consider the, HR and the role HR plays in businesses because, they have to put the people first, and people are central to the operations of any business. So what is important for your business? So, we ask ourselves the 3 questions that are on this slide. Getting the right agent should also be about getting the best agent. Delivering high levels of customer service. You really do need to inspect what you expect. My boss told me this only yesterday, actually, and I added it into my notes because I think it's really relevant. And my question for everybody on this slide and for everybody that I'm going to be speaking to for the foreseeable is, are you really doing this? And if you are really doing this, you should be able to evidence it. Are your people engaged? Are they invested? Because all of these things are critical, to the success of the business. And, when you're thinking about the customers that we're serving today. So working anywhere. So I'm quite fond of saying now, work is a thing you do, not a place you go. And I think it's still relevant. So, when you're working anywhere, you need to have access to the same tools, irrespective, again, of where you're working from. So some of the things that, Mitel, Britannic and Calabrio offer as part of our cohesive solution is the ability to do omni-channel. So omni-channel is integral to customer experience, and you have to be able to, to handle those phone calls as well as emails, chat, SMS, social media, and be able to pivot from anyone to anything. And the key thing to that is making sure that the experience for the agents as well as the customers is as frictionless as possible. You can use MyCollab, which is our unified communications and collaboration tool, to make sure that you're connected not only to your customers, but to everybody within the business as well. And leveraging a soft phone, you should be able to use a soft phone that is at the end of your fingertips. And again, it should be frictionless, and you should have the same experience whether you're using it on a PC, a laptop, or a mobile device. And when we think about, mobility, what this is really doing is just extending customer communications. And that's internal and external. But again, it should be easy and it should be accessible for all. So success is all about people, the right tools, and the processes that are aligned to that. When we talk about people, process, and systems, it's still relevant. Whilst we've been talking about it for a couple of years, it's not really changed. You have to take care of your people. And when you take care of your people will take care of your customers. But you do need the right tools in order to achieve success. I'm a big fan of Ken Blanchard. I've been doing, just listening into a couple of his blogs, and he quoted in the last one that I did is, profit is the applause you get for taking care of customers and your people. And I think that is my mantra for 2020 and beyond. And with that, I just want to hand over to my colleague and friend Nick Smith. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Shameen. And hi, everyone. So, yeah, my name is Nick Smith. I work for Calabrio in the partnership side of the business, and I was formerly of Teleopti, and I'm sure that's a brand name that some of you are aware of. I'm going to start, but not dwell on some statistics. I'm sure you've seen a load of statistics recently about COVID and the effect. We were quite fortunate in that we ran a survey pre-coronavirus on home working, and so when we ran the survey post lockdown, we were able to compare the results, which gave us quite a unique viewpoint. And this slide is really just showing you who we polled. So I think it's a large enough poll of people that have filled in the survey to give us some good results. You can see it's split over the US and UK. we hit a broad range of roles within contact centres and industries. So as I said, I think the results are quite telling. And really, the high level that we saw is that working from home what was already a trend, but is now accelerating. As I said, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know already. But 1 in 3 had at least half of their agents working remotely pre-pandemic, and now we see 9 in 10 have at least half of their agents working remotely. And the quote at the bottom, I think, is probably a really good summary of where we are at the moment. Work at home is now being viewed through the lens of business strategy and not as a perk. And I think that fits where we are quite nicely. I'm not going to go into any more of these details. I think the slides will be shared afterwards, or the presentation, so if you want to pick up any of the stats, you can through that. But what does that mean for our agents? And it has a lot of changes, fundamental changes to the skill sets that they've been used to. The first is self-management. So historically, obviously, agents are used to sitting in a contact centre, being closely managed by a team manager and a support network around them, and obviously that has been removed now. The second element we identified is problem solving. So again, with that support network comes the ability to help solve problems and issues with close proximity to colleagues, and that's obviously been removed. Another element, something that might be overlooked, technology setup and security awareness. Obviously, agents were used to coming into an office and everything being set up for them. Now they're working from living rooms, from studies, bedrooms, and have to manage all of that piece themselves. And the final two really kind of mold together, but team collaboration and an on-camera presentation. So collaboration and working with colleagues and customers through a screen permanently, and not that physical interaction that they're used to before. And specifically on the home working piece, there are many challenges that agents face now that they didn't historically. Just an hour ago, I was breaking up a fight over who should be emptying the dishwasher, which I'm sure is not alien to a lot of you listening just now. But things like childcare, homeschooling, not so much now, but obviously in recent months, sharing broadband with other people working from home, additional dependencies, maybe elderly relatives have been brought into lockdown, sharing office space. I'm sure there are countless more, but these are all challenges that agents now face that historically weren't something they were looking at. And so what is the need from a business, and how can that be facilitated by workforce management? And ultimately, the need is an increased ways to influence work-life balance for these agents, and that's where workforce management and our solution can come in to play. And the types of things on the right-hand side that we can do to help. So automating holiday requests. So agents can see when holidays available, and then they can make requests and get instant responses. And that becomes even more important now when they need to be a little bit more adaptable to what's going on in home life. And also, we need agents to be taking holiday. There are many businesses now that see the accruement of holiday as a real problem going into the second half of the year. Automating shift trades is another option. Again, just giving agents more flexibility. The ability to change when their lunches and breaks are themselves, the ability to preference the types of shifts they would like to work if it meets with the business demand, the ability to define when they can work through availability, and also things like chatbots, which a chatbot is, for an agent, is designed to take the interaction they would typically have with a team leader, but automate it and give them responses to questions. So at a little bit more of a high level, what problems can workforce management help solve? So I said at the beginning, the move to home working had already started, and what's happened in the past 6 months has just accelerated that. So what workforce management was really already moved towards the cloud, and that whole mobility piece that comes with a cloud offering. So visibility of information is probably quite a simple one, but quite key. Obviously, agents need to be able to see schedules and make these changes and requests from home, and all of that's available through mobile apps. So Apple, Android apps, the types of interfaces they're used to. Sorry. Juggling home working with new challenges, which we've just touched on. Actual work management, so staff versus demand. I know that we're focused on the agent piece here, but we can't neglect there's still a need to match and staff to that customer demand. So it's very much finding that balance, and we can touch on that in a second. Motivation of staff. It is a lot harder to motivate, I think, when agents are at home. Just having those conversations around the coffee machine, the buzz of the contact center, if people, I don't know, are maybe selling, and there's a buzz that picks up. None of that exists with home working. So there are some things that workforce management can help with to motivate. And also monitoring of staff. Ultimately, we still need our agents to be working. So ensuring that they are, and making sure they're working when we need them to is important as well. That doesn't have to be a big brother approach. It can also help identify things like an agent that's been on a call for a huge amount of time. Maybe they need some support, but they can't reach out. So there's that element to it as well. So the management of staff piece, I put the scales on as kind of a visual reminder to me, really. When we think about workforce management, we've always described it as a balancing act. You have your customer demand on one side, and you have your agent satisfaction on the other side. If you focus too heavily on one, it is always to the detriment of the other. So if you schedule your staff exactly to hit your customer demand, they will have no real input in when they're working. They might be working very varied shifts, and essentially they will have a poor work-life balance. If you allow agents just to work any shift they like, then it won't match to the customer demand, and you will give a poor customer experience. So finding that balance whereby you're meeting your customer demand, but you're also giving your agents a good work-life balance is really what we're trying to do here, and what we're trying to give to you in the that we provide. So the third area that we were going to touch on was how WFM can be used as a motivational aid for agents as well. So we've looked at how we can monitor them, and we've looked at how we can schedule them. This slide is really just a couple of images to prompt me to talk about the mobility side, and then what I'm going to do is jump into a demo and show you how the agent front end looks and how it can be motivational. So as you can see, the solution for the agents is available as a mobile app. So we're not limited just to one, so we can work with Apple, Android, or Windows devices. The reason for this really is just to give, again, the agents flexibility in how they use the solution. And we're all used to nowadays working with mobile phones for pretty much everything we do. So why not give that opportunity to agents as well? So everything that I'm about to show you in the demo, they can also do from the mobile device. And because it is a native app and not just a web page that they're looking at, that means that we get all the API hooks for things like notifications. So if an agent is due to come back from their break in 5 minutes, they can get a pop-up notification on the phone saying, remember to come back from break. So there's lots of benefits to that mobility side. So I will now jump over to a demo. as I said, it will be a slightly different format to the phone screen, but everything I show you in this demo is available on the mobile app as well. Okay, so this is known as My Time, and as I've said a few times, this is the agent front end. It defaults to the current working week, as you can see, and it gives the agent a detailed view of what they should be doing. So I'm working in an omni-channel contact center. In this example, you can see there's different activities. There's chat, administration, social media, phone, and the detail around my lunches and breaks as well. So at the moment, I'm actually logged in as John Smith, and you can see from the dotted line, I should be on web chat at the moment. And as you know, all of these schedules are obviously built around reacting to that customer demand and making sure we have a smooth staffing profile. So I've hinted right the way through about giving agents flexibility through this. So I'm going to try and major on those points when I talk you through this. So some of the things that agents can do, first of all, they can fire forward as far as they like. So if they're wanting to book things or make arrangements, they know when they'll be working from this calendar view. They can also get a monthly view. In this example, I get every weekend off, but if I'm a 24/7 contact center, my days off might be staggered, so that would give me a high-level view of when I wasn't working. And then we also want to give agents the option to take annual leave as well and effect when they're working. So there's a couple of ways they can do that. I can simply click on a day that I want to take. So maybe I want Friday off. I can go to absence request. I can choose the type of leave. So I'll choose holiday in this example. I want it to be a full day, and I'm going to just something polite to my planning team. And I also get a view of the amount of holiday I have remaining as well. And obviously, if there's nothing there, then it will decline this. So I save that, and then that will go through a couple of processes in the background. It will make sure I've got enough balance to take holiday. It will also see if there's enough time available on that day, or if we're going to impact the service level negatively. And once it's done those, it can then make an automated decision or refer it to a team manager for their decision. If I can't have the time, I then sit on a wait list, and if that time becomes available, then it will ask me if I still want to take it as holiday. So that if used correctly, the whole annual leave process can be automated through this solution. One other element on annual leave as well, we can also offer short-term holiday. So if I go to show absence probability, you will see a drop-down appear against each of the days. Green being when there's a high probability of leave, yellow, medium, and red would be low. And again, what this is doing, it's still giving me flexibility as an agent. Maybe tomorrow afternoon I want a couple of hours off if I can to do something. I can see there's a good chance of getting absence there, so I can put that holiday request in, and I'm more than likely to get it as we're overstaffed. So the two things, flexibility for agents, but also currently a lot of people are stockpiling unintentionally holidays, so it means that with that flexibility that we can get through the holiday balance that agents have. Equally, this can be used for overtime as well. So if we're understaffed, I could ask it to show me the probability of getting overtime. Unsurprisingly, that there isn't any available because we were showing that there's holiday available. But if that was the case and we needed extra heads at any point, then as an agent I can see that and then request that overtime directly through the system as well. Okay, so we're an agent. We tried to get a day off and we couldn't get that for whatever reason. So the next thing I might want to try is to request a shift trade. So I've clicked on the 7th again. I would like to do a shift that actually starts at 10 o'clock and finishes at 7. And then I can save that. And what that does is it will publish that request on a notice board, basically. and other people can then see that request, and if their shifts match, they could then trade with me if they wanted to. So again, it's just another option for agents to take to get that work-life balance. If we follow the tabs across the top, sorry, no, we're not going to do that yet. I've got one other element I was going to show you here. It's very new to the solution, which is why I almost forgot it. We also give agents the ability to move their lunches and breaks themselves now. So these little pencil icons are activities that they can move. It is all restricted, again, by the customer demand. So if by moving a break it was going to negatively impact performance, then the system wouldn't let me do it. But tomorrow I want to go on a break with someone, I can click that little icon and I can then move my break up and down. So let's say we want to move it to 11:30. Do I want to move it to 11:30? Yes, I do. That has now changed. I get the break at the time I want. We haven't impacted service level, and a team manager or resource planner hasn't had to get involved in this. It might sound like a small thing. We're the only WFM solution on the market that have this function, and the feedback, especially with home working, has been extremely positive. And it's a very quick fix to typically a manual task at the moment. Okay, so now we can follow the tabs across the top. Team schedule gives me an idea of what my colleagues are doing. It's obviously all permissions based, but this will help me if I want to trade with people. Maybe I want to target someone specifically and ask if they're happy to trade shifts with me, and I can do that. Availability and preferences, I touched on earlier on a little bit. This is really about gathering the working requirements from the agents. So when am I as an agent available to work? I can put those times in, and then the planning team can give me shifts that match up to those times. So it moves away from flexible scheduling, but maybe with specific agents with specific home requirements. This is a method of collating the hours they can work. I'm going to jump across a couple and just click on messages. Messages is really the kind of audit trail for the agents. So if they have holidays granted or shift trades granted, those will always also pop up in here. But there's also a very basic gamification function, so giving agents badges if they hit certain metrics. So I got a gold badge because I answered 60 calls in this example. Reports. The only report I'm going to show you is called My Report, and this is giving our agents a view of some of the key metrics from the contact center platform that would interest them. So handling time, number of calls they've answered, talk time, and adherence, which is the main one. You will have seen this image before in the slides, but what this is doing is giving the agent a score based on how well they have met the schedule that we've put in place. The data doesn't match up very well in this example, but I'll explain what it's doing here. So the bar at the bottom is obviously the agent schedule, and in this case, green is phone. The vertical blue block is the amount of time in a 15-minute interval that the agent was doing what we wanted them to do. So in this block here, just before lunch, you can see it's almost 2/3 full. So we will have had a message back from the Mitel platform saying this agent was only in a ready state or logged on to take a call or in a call for 10 minutes. For 5 minutes out of this interval, they were in a not ready code or something like that. That will then all roll up across the day to the percentage metric here, and obviously an agent will be targeted on this metric. It updates as the day progresses, so they can keep track of it, and it's supposed to be an aid for the agents, and hopefully they will then get behind adherence as a metric because they can control it rather just seeing it as a stick to be beaten with in one-to-ones. And what we found through rolling this out and giving them this report is that that there is typically an increase between 3 and 7% in adherence when we switch this on. That was really it from the agent portal. There was one other screen I was just going to show you as we have time, and that is intraday. And what we're doing in intraday is really giving a view of how the contact center is performing against how we forecasted it to perform. So there's a number of tabs here. These can be viewed across any of the skills coming into that contact center and any of the channels. But in this example, what we're showing is what we forecasted in that blue line, what actually came in. So we were vastly under forecast in this case, and then the same for the handling time. So our forecasted handling time and our actual handling time. This has a full day's data, but this will update as the day progresses every 15 minutes. If we then flip forward to staffing, and just give that a second to load, what we're doing here is translating that forecast information into a staffing requirement. So again, what we thought we were going to need is the blue block. What we actually need is the green. So again, unsurprisingly, we're hugely understaffed in this case. And then, if you can see right on at the end on the right-hand side, we will then also put a reforecasted line in place. And what this is doing is giving you a forecast for the remainder of the day based on the deviation in the beginning of the day. And why this is important is it will then drive things like, is holiday going to be available later in the day for our agents? Do we need overtime? Do we need to cancel meetings and move lunches and breaks to hit that increased demand that we're going to get? Intraday automation is the kind of banner that this functionality sits under, and it's a real focused development area for us at the moment, and quite exciting. I think we're about there on time now, so I'm going to conclude. If you have any questions or wanted to see a longer demo, of course, please reach out after the session and we can facilitate that. And I will now hand back to Britannic.
To actually build on from that, and I will cover a number of the same points. It's about staff kind of working too little, staff working too much. It's the new challenges that are faced. Kind of, it's not about how much time they spend at the coffee machine or around the water cooler. It's about kind of the flexibility to deal with the childcare issues and general home life. But as well as that, you've got the loneliness that some people feel because it is split. Yes, kind of. I personally have worked from home for a number of years and mixed it up, but I do miss that kind of mixed up aspect. Some people don't like working from home and find it very hard to be motivated to and not get distracted because that's just in their nature. We did a call, a webinar with another organisation a few weeks ago that was looking at the psychometric aspect of agents, etc. And kind of, how do you know how your agents are coping? Because quite often people are kind of wary about talking about it. So how can we kind of bring the data feeds that we can get to actually help you not only get the data you need to look at performance and how well the organisation is doing, but actually how well your agents are doing and performing. So doing research on this over the last year, it's kind of everything points back to the fact that actually most contact center staff are only productive for 40% of the working day. And interestingly, on this point, I was speaking to a number of organisations at the moment who are looking at changing from a flexi time to a productivity working week. Both have their challenges, but what they're trying to do is increase that percentage by actually being able to kind of create those worksheets for the agent. So you're losing the cherry picking aspect, and also the aspect, especially when people at home, and Nick was mentioning about you don't have that interaction with teammates. someone's a bit stuck on what to do, it's very hard to kind of have that natural support, because they're sat, as I am, at home in a spare room, kind of desperately hoping their kids aren't going to kind of shout loudly to interrupt it. So kind of, how do I help them get around those issues? And how do I see that actually maybe on kind of the first couple of weeks of the month they do really, really well and their performance is great, and then it drops off dramatically. Now, it may be that the home situation changes. Maybe the partner's shift pattern changes for them. Maybe they're going back into the office. So there's all those aspects that how can we start to pick those up? So with Britannic, what we have is not only looking at just the phone-based interaction, but actually we can pull in kind of pretty much any digital communication channel, and we can bring that in and support you to look at that. So what is the report? What is the message that you put on and what's the weight that you put on each different channel? You might think that actually a reply to a social media message tends to be a shorter amount of time than someone doing an email, than someone doing a phone call. So kind of how do you make sure that people are covering that broad band of communication? You're measuring it effectively, and then actually you're engaging and showing your agent that actually when this kind of communication gets to them, they can resolve it first time, and they're able to see what their impact is on the organisation. So there are a number of potential solutions for this, and again, the beauty now is we don't have to input kind of big kind of behemoth type systems, which means that you have to change your ways, and they're not necessarily focused on the problems that you're having, or be able to put all that data into one place, because your social media is based on one, and your phone is based on something else, and there's a dashboard that only does phone and actually that's only available if you're in the office. Well, there are solutions now where you can start to bring together kind of all those aspects and put them in that melting pot to drive them forward. So kind of one of the ways that we have this is by kind of optimizing those channels and optimizing those agents. So kind of by motivating the agent and bringing them together and saying kind of, if you do a kind of a nice kind of omni-channel, if you have an omni-channel day, so these people are interacting with various different communication means, and by the end of the day, actually, we've looked at the sentiment of what you're doing, we looked at how many that you're doing, we looked at the outcomes of what's going on, and all of these are brought together to give that agent their overview of the impact that they are having. Because most ways that you measure people, it tends to, and I was talking to someone this morning, they say it's very hard because kind of there can be a negative effect on you've made most sales this week, because quite often, or month, because quite often the top 2 or 3 are always the same. And so you get that negative effect further down where someone goes, well, there's no point me trying because I'm never going to get in the top, so I'm never going to get that reward. Whereas actually if you start to look at improvement and kind of percentage increase, so that new starter who's done or the bottom performer who's done 10% better than they did last week, you're rewarding them for it, which motivates them, which pushes them forward. And then suddenly what you have there is your baseline is 10% better this week than it was last week. And then maybe next week it's 5% better. And then suddenly actually the difference between the top and the bottom becomes narrower. And you suddenly realise that the ones at the top are coasting. So how can you reinvigorate those that you know have got those skills to actually improve their performance? So I'm just going to move on now to just give you a kind of a very brief overview just of one of the solutions that there are that can help enable this, and to help you to kind of start to visualize actually how kind of within your own organization these kind of aspects, kind of bringing together this data, can support the development and motivation of your staff. Let me just 2 seconds. There we go. Right, so here we go. So, just launching. There we go. So, you can see here what we've got is a nice kind of bright visual leaderboard, and this can be kind of on someone's desktop, so they're constantly able to see how they're doing, how they're performing. This is a kind of an all agents. You can look at kind of how does this compare to your kind of the difference between day staff and night staff, or you can look at teams. So how is each individual team performing? And again, you can start to not only have teams of kind of one aspect of the business, but quite often with home working, it increases the silos that there are within an organisation, because there isn't that natural, oh, I'm just going to pop over and see so-and-so to ask them a question, or I'm quite new, I don't know who to go and ask. Whereas actually if you start to build teams which are cross-departmental, you can start to measure two parts. One is, how successful is the sales team doing? How successful is the service team doing? But then you can actually look at the holistic view of, okay, we've taken X from sales, X from service, and X from maintenance, and we've pulled them together. So now, because we know that the common kind of passing of issues can get lost, because again, you've got that disparate workforce. So what we're enabling here is that visualization of how someone is doing. So we go back to the individual here. We can look at kind of, you can start to get to how they've been performing over the last week. Kind of have they been in any tournaments or entered into anything, and how's their performance been? Kind of how are they compared to last month? How are they compared to 2 months ago? Kind of how are they compared to last week? So you're looking at that productivity data from a business point of view, but also you're looking at that kind of agent well-being, which is not as easy currently to do. The other aspect that you've got is, because you're measuring multiple metrics, and again, I'll go back to the conversation I was having this morning with someone, they were saying that quite often, that if they see a drop in one aspect, but kind of an increase in that. So, for example, someone's not making so many phone calls, they're spending an awful long time on the admin side, or they're responding to an email, for example, or they might be kind of unable to close something, or they're getting stuck in certain areas. Actually, you can start to visualize those quite easily, because if you're keeping these kind of metrics that you think should all be about even, then actually that person's overall performance is really well. If you start to get like Katharine Hepburn here, they've got a drop-off in one area. 2 areas doing really, really well. They've got a drop-off in another area. You can then focus that training. You can then focus that interaction that a team leader or a manager or a trainer has with an individual. So you're not going over everything, and we talk about it when we're developing software and looking at it. What you're doing is in the training, you're exposing them to what they need, not to everything. So you're not having to sit there for an hour to do general training on phone calls, and the team leaders have to go through and kind of listen to a large number. So actually the time taken prior to that training is large. And we can see here, kind of, there's the QA. Right, okay, I can take them on a 20-minute sharp burst of a QA session. But because you're then visualizing it and you're able to then create that competition, you might have a Friday afternoon, right, we're going to award X amount of points, we're going to put individuals against each other, we're going to put teams against each other, and it might be for, right, whoever manages to get the best sentiment scores in the next hour, you get an ice cream each. Or it could go that actually this is a cash benefit that is there. So if your sales goes up, you're going to get a cash reward. Or if it's to do with holidays or kind of however you want to do your awards, you can start to build them in, because you're in control. We don't know your business as well. Once this is set up, you're in control of what you're able to do. A manager can go past and say, do you know what, or see this while they're sat in their own office and go, do you know what, actually I can see George Pemberton's doing really, really well, especially compared to last week. The MD, CEO, whatever of a business can go in and say, do you know what, you're doing great, keep going. So the teams are coming together. When you start to pick team against team, the team leader is more kind of involved in how everyone is doing. So you're starting to expose that to them. And it's amazing how many people react to a digital cup or a digital certificate, because what you're able to do is stick it up and make and kind of everyone is able to be aware of how people are doing. And because those metrics are not just that they're based on the outcomes, but the productivity and the improvement, you can start to kind of bring everything together. So I'm just going to change my date. Let's just change my date. So we can really start to kind of pull those, and we can look at kind of how are the different teams forming against each other. So rather than, again, the holistic nature of this doesn't just kind of be there for an agent, but it also looks at how how the team leaders who are spending X amount of time on spreadsheets pulling all the data together, well, if you put the right metrics into the system, it's there and done for you. So suddenly you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a week back because you're not having to manually pull all of these together. And you're looking at, you can gain, kind of pull those metrics to see we've got kind of as many graphs as you want. And you can then expose kind of each type of user. So it might be that just an agent, and all an agent can see is this. Whereas a team leader can start to employ bonus measurement and start to do that. Whereas an administrator can do the rest. So kind of it's looking at what is best for your business. And I think that the key thing now about when you're looking around about trying to solve the problems that you have, especially in this current situation, is kind of look at what can be configured and kind of to make the best use of the data you have as a business, or is able to solve those that manual area. So you're getting rid of those manual tasks which kind of agents aren't adding value to and don't really want to do, and actually you're giving them those value case type aspects which enables them to actually perform better. So kind of if you look at everything kind of as an overarching view downwards, I think there's a real opportunity here to realise that kind of how is my business, how am I engaging with my agents? Are they adding value to what they do? Is there anything that we could look at within our organisation that is a transactional task that they don't give any value to? Kind of how can we change that? How can we make kind of potentially automate that transactional task and give them actually something that they can get their teeth into and make a difference to the company? How do they visualize from their bedroom, from their living room, from their office, how they are affecting the company and how they are performing? Passing back to Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think what's important is flexibility. Hopefully we've demonstrated that today, and it's really interesting time in which we live. There's a huge proportion of the workforce working from home. And similarly, there's a huge proportion of the workforce that are furloughed and not currently working. We've worked with a lot of businesses over the last few months in helping to rapidly mobilise home working. And the way I see it, we've really there's a few different phases that we've gone through. So there's the DR phase of we need to quickly mobilise and get people working from home, and at that point, there are a whole load of different technologies that people used to try and enable home working quickly. Those that hadn't already pre-baked and accommodated that into their BCP plans, it was very much let's get up and running, let's try and deliver a service, and let's get people working from home. After that, it was about business continuity. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's not going to be a short-term thing. People need to be able to operate and work from home and service customers for the longer period, which we've been in for a number of months. And really what we're seeing and what we're working with customers today is there's a lot of talk about the new normal and when people will return back to the office, if they do. And there's a lot of change in how people are going to be operating into the future. And I think we are in the midst of the biggest global experiment in remote working that there's ever been, and there's going to be a lot of learnings taken out of this. There's going to be a lot of change in how people operate, and I absolutely agree with fellow presenters and the comments that remote working isn't going to be a perk. This is something that people are going to come to expect into the future. So, how do you support and deliver flexible working? But importantly, how do you maintain the tools to extend to people within the business to carry on working as effectively in the office as they, at home as they do in the office? And how do you have the tools to manage it and basically bridge those communities between the business and the staff? So things are changing, and one of the comments I'd leave you with is, how are you rebuilding after COVID? What's going to change? What's going to be different? We're seeing a lot of businesses that are looking at incorporating digital channels and automation and wanting to understand how they can embrace staff from wherever they may be, and also how can they support potentially some leaner operating models. So forecasting, workforce management, an extension of tools and bridging the community between customers, staff and the business is going to be really important into the future. So hopefully you found it interesting, and we've shared some insight. I know we had a bit of a challenge with the broadband links, and therein lies a challenge for home working. But thank you very much for your interest. Thank you very much for attending today. And if you do have any questions, we'd be very happy to handle them.
Great. Thank you very much, Jonathan. So if anyone does have any last-minute questions, please type in the box and we'll go through those. In the meantime, we do have a question from Mark, and he's asking about, I think this is for Calabrio, and what algorithms do you use to understand the agent demand?
Yeah, so there's a choice essentially. For telephony, it's either Erlang C or Erlang A, and the difference is that Erlang C assumes that customers will hold on indefinitely, whereas Erlang A allows you to put in a period of time after which they will abandon. And then web chat and back office are different because they need to take into account concurrency. So Erlang A or Erlang C is probably the answer you're looking for.
Okay, great, thank you. So in terms of obviously adding these additional functionality, is it a one-off cost or is it an annual cost? I don't know, perhaps Gil can answer that one.
It's a kind of license MRC model. So again, it means that you're not committing to channels that you're not going to use. You can look at what we're doing. We're working with a university at the moment to digitise clearing, and what we're doing with them is very slowly, as they get confident, we're turning on another channel, but they're not paying for that channel until that's on. So kind of what we're able to do is focus on solving the problem that you need until you're only having to invest in that solution at a time rather than a large kind of platform. So yeah, monthly licensed is the way we.
So it's a software as a service model, and maybe Nick, do you have an overview from your commercial modelling approach as well?
Yeah, it's exactly the same software as a service. So we're per agent per month. We would look for a minimum commitment, but then on top of that, there's a burst model. So really, it's designed to allow you to only pay for what you need, given that your agent need will fluctuate over the year.
Great, thank you. And obviously, we're talking very much about contact centres here, but could some of these digital transformation products be used in other parts of the business across the organisation?
Absolutely. We're working with someone they're looking at the productivity in the warehouse. We're working with someone else who's looking at yes, it's partly contact centre based, but also they're setting up repairs, and it's making sure that they are sending the the maintenance guys kind of fully equipped to those jobs, and we're also doing quite a lot now around looking at IoT devices, and actually, rather than getting lost in the melee of the vast amounts of data that can come out of those, is actually then assigning that and just looking at those alerts or thresholds that need actioning, and then dispersing them to the parts of the business in which they need to make it. So kind of the contact center tends to be the central hub, but there's no reasoning. If you've got metrics you can measure, or there are channels of communication coming in that you want to get to the right eyes at the right time, you can spread this kind of across an organisation as a whole.
Great. Well, I think that was a good answer to end on. We're coming up to the end of our time. So thank you very much for joining us. I'll leave it to Jonathan to close. Thank you.
So yeah, I'll just reiterate the point I made earlier. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for my fellow presenters. If you'd like to talk about any of the aspects that you've heard today, we'd love to carry on conversations. We're seeing a lot of change, and importantly, we're helping to underpin a lot of change and support a lot of change with customers. So it isn't about technology as the answer. It's actually about understanding the problem and requirements customers have, and then look at how we support it with technology. There's lots of things available to us, and it's about how we work together to design an appropriate solution to support customers' needs, improve customer experience and operational efficiency, and provide a path to the future. So thank you very much. We'll send the slides on, and we look forward to continuing conversations. Thank you.